Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Andrea and I like to make videos about traveling and anything kind of relating to traveling or fun activities that you can do. And I decided to make this video about Italy and things that I wish I knew before I visited, or things that I think that you should know. Perhaps if you haven't done a lot of research, this would be a good resource for you. And I just wanted to put all of my tips in one place, so some of these you may have heard already and maybe some of them you haven't, and some of them are just like kind of my personal experience because I just went for 2 weeks to Rome, Venice, Florence, Cinque Terre, and Verona for like general safety type stuff. You might hear a lot about how Rome can be really dangerous, or parts of Italy can be kind of like have a lot of like pickpockets or scams for tourists. I personally didn't experience any of that. I didn't have a single issue or feel unsafe at all anywhere that I went, but some people say that that's an issue for them, and you should just basically always watch your belongings when you're in crowded areas, obviously, and public transportation. I took buses and the subway and trains and all of that, so I don't know, I didn't really feel unsafe at all. But if you want to know more about certain scams for tourists that are going on in Italy, you can look up a separate video about that because there's so many that I don't really want to go into all of it. I didn't really see a lot except maybe like the people who like try to sell you bracelets or roses or something. Yeah, basically just be aware of your surroundings and be smart, and like if you're in a crowded area, just like keep your hand on your purse or your wallet or something at all times and you should be fine. Another thing that I didn't really hear enough about is the mosquitoes. This is very random, but I definitely had an issue with the mosquito bites in Italy, specifically Florence and Rome. Mostly Florence, but also a little bit in Rome too. I got really bad mosquito bites and they were massive, like welts, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it ruined my trip by any means, but it definitely made things more difficult and like less comfortable, and it was really hard for me to find like anti-itch stuff and things to put on it. I had to like kind of like search for pharmacies to, I don't know, it just took a while to find the like appropriate things to put on my mosquito bites, and I definitely recommend just bringing that if you can. If you're allowed to fly with it, just bring it with you. And if you're eating outside, just be aware that there are probably mosquitoes around you. Another thing that was kind of like complicated was sunscreen. We didn't bring any sunscreen because we had very limited weight allotment and we didn't check any bags, so we weren't able to bring a lot of liquids. But me and my husband are both pretty like fair skin, I guess you could say. My husband's a lot darker than me, but we both like to wear sunscreen when we go to warm places, and we were looking for sunscreen in Italy and it was really expensive, like almost 20 euros at some places. They sell it at pharmacies if you're looking for some, but we didn't ever end up buying any because we couldn't find any for less than like literally 17 euros, and it was just like a tiny bottle, probably like that big or something. So we never ended up buying any. So if that's something that's important to you and you don't want to have to spend like a ton of money on sunscreen, definitely just bring it with you if you're able to. Okay, and in terms of food and eating out, I heard that before I went, I heard that it's important to have reservations at places and that Italians really like having reservations, which is definitely true. We struggled a few nights because we didn't make any reservations. We kind of would go to a place, see if they had availability. If it says reservation only, we didn't even try obviously, but we would go to a place, see if they had availability, and normally they would, but we did get turned away like a couple of times here and there, and it's really not a big deal, but sometimes they will be kind of like rude to you. We did have that happen as well, where they were really rude to us. So if there's somewhere you want to eat, make sure to just make a reservation, or be okay with the fact that you might not get to eat wherever you want, but it's really not that big of a deal. So I always pick restaurants based off reviews, so if you don't want to have a bad experience, I recommend doing that. Even though it's not like foolproof, you could definitely still have a bad experience. But yeah, I don't know, just consider looking up places before you go there. I know that's really common, but I was talking to my sister and she was saying that when she was in Europe recently, she didn't do that at all and she had a lot of bad meals. So I don't know, just consider doing that maybe. And then something else to keep in mind is in Italy, you don't have to tip, and I mean, I think a lot of people know that already, but I figure I just mention it. But also that tap water is not really, like if you ask for water, you're not going to get tap water, you're going to get a bottle of water, like probably a glass bottle, and it will cost money. And I think a lot of people also know that, but something that we experienced is that you are, I think, expected to buy a drink when you are at a restaurant. Like you're expected to buy food and a drink unless you're at like a really casual cafe or something maybe. And then for hotels, when you're making your reservation, watch out for places that say tourism tax is cash only, and just keep that in mind for when you're like taking out cash or withdrawing money that you may have to pay your tourism tax in cash. I think for most of our hotels we didn't have to do this, maybe like one or two we did, so we kind of just had an idea of how much money we needed. And then another thing, this is something I had to do at every single one of my hotels except one, was notify them our time of arrival at least 24 hours in advance. And this is definitely not common in the US. I've never seen this anywhere, but I did find all of our hotels on hotels.com, and we booked like relatively like small kind of places that only have a few units, and they don't have like a 24-hour front desk, and they didn't have someone there the entire time, so they want you to notify them when you're going to be there so that they can come meet you to check in. And the same for checking out sometimes. Just make sure to read in the check-in instructions when you book a hotel so that you know if you have to do that, because if you don't, it can be really inconvenient for them. And also keep in mind, not every hotel will have English-speaking staff. I booked a hotel and I didn't realize that there was no bilingual staff, and it was kind of confusing trying to like check in because we also had a lot of different keys and we didn't know which ones were to which doors. So that was kind of like a rookie mistake, I guess, because that's pretty obvious. But okay, and then about train travel, we did travel by train between each city that we went to, which is probably how most people do it unless you rent a car, which I don't really recommend in Italy unless you're going to really remote places, because I heard that parking can be really difficult sometimes, and driving in Italy, I can't imagine doing that because drivers there seem like kind of crazy. Like, I don't know if there's really as many rules. I don't know. It's kind of scary crossing the street. But I booked all of my train travel on Omio, the Omio app. And the reason I did that is because the Train Italia app, I couldn't figure out how to use it in the United States because it asked for like your address and stuff, and it wasn't working with my American address, I think. I don't really remember what the issue was fully, but I ended up using Omio because it was easier for an American tourist. And with Omio, when I would put my credit card in, sometimes it wouldn't always work, but then I had to like keep trying, and then eventually it would work, and I don't really know what the issue was. I tried all of my different credit cards and like it would just seem to be random. So if you have an issue with that, just keep trying. Maybe try on like a different day or something. And we did book all of our travel in advance, even for regional trains, because I wanted to be able to select the cheapest ticket without having to just like go to the train station at the wrong time and then like have to wait around. So we would look at the prices online and then book them and then just go there for the correct time. And we definitely went early every single time. You need to leave probably at least a half an hour early for like non-regional trains because it can be hard trying to figure out where to go. And something to keep in mind is that even on regional trains, you do have to check in. You have to validate your tickets. If you buy an in-person ticket, like the paper ticket, you have to validate it if it's regional. And even if you have a digital regional ticket, you do have to validate it through the Train Italia app. And I've seen a lot of mixed information on TikTok and stuff saying that like you don't have to validate regional digital tickets, but you definitely do have to. There's like it's kind of confusing to figure it out on the Omio app. I think when you go into like your reservations, there's a link and then it takes you to the Train Italia app, and then you have to like type in your train number or something and then validate it from there. It's something like that. It took us a little while to figure out how to do it, but just leave yourself enough time to like figure it out. And then something that's probably really obvious is don't get off at the wrong stop. When we were going to, I think La Spezia, we got off at the wrong stop because there was 2 stops that were called La Spezia, and we got off at the first one because my husband just read the sign from the train and was like, oh my gosh, we have to go. Like, this is our stop. And I didn't get a chance to look, so I just like followed him. But like I knew after we got off that it was not our stop. So if you're approaching your stop and you're kind of confused about which one is yours, definitely make sure to like properly read the signs, because sometimes it can be hard to tell which stop is coming up. The way I would do it is like look at my Google map. If I thought we were getting close, I'd like follow where we were on my Google map and then see like once we arrive, like, you know, we're at the right stop. And what we did when we got off at the wrong stop, because we weren't the only people that were doing that, it was a regional train, there was like a bunch of other tourists that got off at the wrong stop. We just got back on the next regional train and it wasn't a big deal. Like, no one asked for a ticket or anything, and we just got off one stop later. I don't know if technically you're allowed to do that. You could maybe get in trouble for it because I think you maybe would have to like buy another ticket technically, but I don't even think there was a place to buy a ticket at that train station because it was a really small train station. And then for like phone data, we used the Iliad SIM card, which is, it's only like $7.99 I think for, I'm pretty sure it was unlimited. But something to keep in mind is that that is for Italians, I'm pretty sure. I think they have a tourist one and then like one for locals or one for natives. But just make sure that you get the correct one because it can be really hard to cancel it. I watched a video that suggested getting Iliad, but the person who suggested it was living in Italy, and I don't think she realized that I'm not 100% sure there's 2 different ones, but I read on Reddit someone saying that there's 2 different ones because it took us so long to figure out how to cancel it because the website is in Italian and it wasn't like translatable, so I had to like translate line by line to try to figure out how to cancel. And keep in mind that it was just really complicated, but I think if you get a tourist one, but I think we got a tourist one because we also had, she asked for our passports. We got it, this is all over the place, but we got it at the train station. They have like little Iliad stands, and she took our passports. So then I'm guessing, I don't know, I haven't fully figured this out, but just keep in mind that if you do get an Iliad SIM card, it's complicated to cancel it and it will keep charging your credit card monthly unless you cancel it. So yeah, there's a lot of other options that you can use. You can do like international with your current phone plan, or you can use like a SIM card app. Also, something that I didn't really think about was the fact that my husband tried to get a SIM card, but his phone is locked in the US. And like we had already bought a SIM card, so we did waste a little bit of money doing that. But it wasn't really a big deal. He just turned his phone off for the whole trip, and like we just used my phone. But if you are also in a phone plan that is locked, you won't be able to get a SIM card. Something I forgot about train travel is, this is an issue that we had where we were taking the Leonardo Express, which is the train that goes to the airport in Rome. From the airport in Rome to like downtown Rome. And we were leaving to go back to the airport and we didn't know what platform the train was supposed to be on, and it was delayed and it wasn't coming on the departure screen, like even though it was like minutes till our train was supposed to leave. So we didn't know where we were supposed to go, and it was kind of scary because we could have missed that train very easily, and we already had paid for it, obviously, and we already checked in. So we would have had to buy another ticket if we missed it. Something that we were able to do is just Google which platform does the Leonardo Express go to at whatever train station, and then it told us like 24 or 25 or something, and then we just went to that platform, and then we were able to get on the train right when it arrived. And if we would have waited to have it be on the if we would have waited to have the train show up on the screen before we went to the train, we would have missed it, because it literally left like right away. As soon as it arrived and everyone got on, it just left. So we would have missed it if we wouldn't have Googled which platform does it leave from. So if you're in that situation where your train is late and it's not on the screen yet, maybe try Googling it, because it worked for us. I'm not sure if it works for all trains. I'm guessing it probably only works for certain trains, because I think a lot of other trains can kind of go to any platform, but if you're having that issue, it might be worth trying that. Okay, and then the best time I think to go to Italy is probably not summer, because of how crowded and expensive and super hot it is. Unless you're going to a place where you're going to be like at the beach the whole time, I probably would not go in the summer. We went in October, and I think it was perfect because it was around like 75 or 80 degrees. We were still able to swim in Cinque Terre, and it wasn't too hot, but it was like, I think actually 90 in Rome some days. So I would not want to go when it was any hotter than that, because I was sweating a lot still. We both took water bottles on the trip, so that when we came to like one of the drinking fountains around a city, we were able to just fill up our water, so we always had water on us. In case you didn't know, there's a lot of water fountains around cities in Italy where you can just like drink the water straight out of the fountain. Okay, and then in terms of like getting tickets to sites, sometimes you might want to book those in advance. We didn't really book anything in advance, because I didn't want to have, for some reason I was really paranoid that we weren't actually going to make it to Italy and something would go horribly wrong and maybe our flight would be canceled. So I didn't want to lose more money, because I didn't get travel insurance, because all of our hotels and half of our flights we were able to cancel them if we had to, so I didn't want to like spend extra money on travel insurance. But I didn't want to book a lot of stuff in advance, because I wouldn't be able to get that back. So if you're wanting to go to something like the Colosseum or Vatican Museum or Roman Forum, like all of that stuff, consider booking it in advance. I'm pretty sure the Colosseum and the Roman Forum sell out like instantly as soon as they become available, and you're not able to get a skip the line ticket, and skip the line is probably the most convenient because you don't have to wait in line, and if you actually get them from the website, it's a lot cheaper than buying them from like those third-party like scalper people on the street, or even like the travel companies that sell skip the line tickets. And I don't know if this is true, but I suspect the reason they sell out so quickly is because all of those people are buying them to resell them. So if you want to be able to skip the line, I recommend knowing when those tickets go on sale so that maybe you can get one. We did end up having to wait in line for everything, but it wasn't really a big deal, because we would just go like right when it opened, or like a little bit before opening, and then we'd have to wait like maybe an hour or something. We kind of like scheduled it into our plans, so it wasn't really a big deal. But we also didn't get to go inside the Colosseum. Okay, and then something else is that, like I mentioned, you can bring a water bottle and then fill it up in the public drinking fountains. And if you don't know where the fountains are, you can just search water fountain on your map, and then it will show all the locations of them. And we did that a lot with public restrooms and water fountains. If we really needed a bathroom, we would just search on Google Maps toilet, or like public toilet, and then it shows you where they're located. I know that in Italy it can be really complicated to find toilets sometimes, and you do have to pay to use them, which is fine with me. I don't really mind paying, but something that I also wasn't expecting is some toilets in Italy are just kind of like a hole in the ground, and I recommend, if you are like me and you don't want to have to use that, then if you are looking for a toilet and it's 50 cents, then it's probably a hole in the ground because everything else was €1 or more. So the only one that I came to was 50 cents. So if you're like wanting to avoid it and you don't want to have to like pay and then find out it's just like a hole in the ground, then if it's 50 cents, I would just say avoid it because it probably is that. Something else is that you can actually look up reviews of toilets on Google, and then sometimes people will post photos of what it looks like, which can be really helpful because I like to know what I'm getting myself into before I like go to it. And toilets in Italy, the public ones at least, usually don't have toilet seats. A lot of them don't. And so definitely that's something else to keep in mind. I'm sure at your hotel there'll be a seat on the toilet, but a lot of public ones don't have that. I think that's really all I have to talk about. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I really want to reach 1,000 subscribers this year. So if you like my channel, please subscribe. And I hope you enjoy, and hopefully you're going to Italy sometime soon because Italy is amazing and it has been my favorite country that I've visited so far. I'm planning to go to Japan next, so if you want to see that content, be sure to subscribe and see you next time.